For the first time since Lu Chenzhou was injured, Shen Yu'an did not leave immediately. He stayed in the Lu Group medical room, waited for the doctor to confirm that there was no risk of infection, and then followed Lu Chenzhou back to the mountainside villa. In the car, neither of them spoke. The rain had stopped outside the window, and neon lights illuminated the city streets. Watching his reflection in the glass, Shen Yu'an suddenly felt that the road back to the mountainside villa was both familiar and strange. He had once traveled this road to move into the Lu family home, and later traveled it again when he moved away. At that time, he thought he was leaving a contract marriage. Only later did he understand that he had been leaving a home he was not yet ready to acknowledge. The car stopped in front of the villa. When the housekeeper saw Shen Yu'an following Lu Chenzhou back, his eyes turned red almost immediately. Shen Yu'an felt a little uncomfortable. "I'm just sending him back." The housekeeper nodded quickly. I understand." The look on his face showed that he didn't understand at all. Zhou Jibai struggled not to laugh beside them. Shen Yu'an looked at him coldly. Zhou Jibai immediately returned to an expressionless stare. Lu Chenzhou could not get his injured shoulder wet, and the doctor had instructed them to change the dressing again that night. The housekeeper was about to call the family doctor, but Shen Yu'an said, "I'll do it." As soon as the words came out, everyone in the living room fell silent. Lu Chenzhou looked at him. Shen Yu'an looked away. "I've taken care of my father before, so I know how to change a dressing. It's too late to trouble the doctor with another trip." The butler immediately handed over the medicine box, as fast as if he was afraid Shen Yu'an would regret it. In the master bedroom, Lu Chenzhou sat beside the bed. Shen Yu'an took off the gauze and frowned even more when he saw the sutured wound. "Is this a minor injury?" Lu Chenzhou whispered, "I won't say it now." Shen Yuan's hands paused. This man really had changed a great deal. When something hurt, he said it hurt. When he knew he was wrong, he admitted it. When he knew he could no longer hide the truth, he handed over every piece of evidence. Even when he wanted to draw closer, he stopped and asked for permission. But the more clearly Shen Yu'an saw those changes, the more his heart ached. Because he knew every one of them had been bought with the repeated breaking of their relationship. He lowered his head to disinfect Lu Chenzhou. When the alcohol touched the wound, Lu Chenzhou's shoulders tensed slightly. Shen Yu'an raised his eyes. "Just say it if it hurts." "It hurts." Shen Yu'an. He suddenly laughed angrily. "You have learned it thoroughly now." Lu Chenzhou looked at him and whispered, "You taught me well." The tips of Shen Yuan's ears grew warm. He lowered his head and continued changing the dressing. The room fell silent. After changing the dressing, he fixed the gauze but did not leave immediately. Lu Chenzhou sat without urging. After a long time, Shen Yu'an whispered, "Today in the underground passage, you leave the board of directors and come to me." "Yeah." "If you lose the execution rights of Lu Group because of this, will you regret it?" "No." Shen Yu'an raised his eyes. Lu Chenzhou answered too quickly, as this is not a question that needs thinking at all. "Why?" "Lu Group can be taken back again." Lu Chenzhou looked at him, "You can't die again." Shen Yuan's heart trembled. If these words were said before, he might feel suffocated. Because it is too heavy as a shackle. But today is different. Lu Chenzhou did not use this pressure to force him back, nor did he use the grace of saving his life in exchange for his answers. He just calmly stated his choice. Shen Yu'an suddenly found that he was no longer afraid of Lu Chenzhou's love. Because this love finally stopped trying to trap him. Lu Chenzhou. "Yeah. I don't hate you anymore." Lu Chenzhou froze. He seemed to have heard something so unbelievable that he even breathed softly. Shen Yu'an lowered his eyes and spoke softly. "You came late in your previous life, and you missed a lot of things in this life. I still mind those concealments, and I won't pretend that all the injuries don't exist." He paused. "But I don't hate you anymore." Lu Chenzhou's eyes slowly turned red. The man who had been besieged on the board of directors without any trouble seemed to be defeated by these words at this moment. He asked in a low voice, "Then will you leave?" Shen Yu'an felt sour in his heart. Yes. The light in Lu Chenzhou's eyes dimmed for a moment. Shen Yu'an continued, I will leave tonight. I may not come back tomorrow. But it's not because I hate you, nor because I want to escape. Lu Chenzhou looked at him. Shen Yu'an raised his hand and lightly touched the back of his hand. It's because I want to walk a little longer on my own feet. Lu Chenzhou was silent for a long time and whispered, I'm waiting for you. Shen Yu'an smiled. What else can you do now besides waiting? I will pursue you. Shen Yu'an's fingers froze. Lu Chenzhou looked at him with eyes that were serious and almost solemn. When this is over, if you are willing, I will pursue you again. Shen Yuan's heartbeat suddenly became chaotic. He stood up and picked up the medicine box. Survived the board of directors and Wenchuan first. Lu Chenzhou responded in a low voice, okay. Shen Yuan's steps were a little quick when he left the master bedroom. But when he reached the door, he stopped again. Lu Chenzhou. Yeah. Don't touch the wound with water. Lu Chenzhou's gaze softened. Okay. This time, Shen Yu'an didn't look back. But the corners of his lips curved slightly as he walked out of the room. The actual final board meeting was held 3 days later. The previous board meeting was interrupted due to the underground passage incident, and Lu Wenchuan's authority was temporarily frozen, but he did not fall completely. Relying on the network he has built over many years, he still has a group of loyal directors, and he tried to package the underground passage incident as a personal conflict and procedural flaw, denying that he was involved in the car accident and the silence arrangement. This time, the Lu Group Board of Directors will formally vote on 3 things. First, whether to remove all positions and permissions of Lu Wenchuan in Lu Group. Second, whether to transfer all the information on the Old City project, Xishan Capital, and Shin Group cases to the judiciary and supervision. Third, whether to confirm that Lu Chenzhou will continue to serve as the executive chairman of Lu Group and be responsible for subsequent crisis cleanup. This is a true decisive battle. Shen Yu'an attended in the triple capacity of the representative of Shin Group, the person designated to unblock Lanzhou's information, and the holder of key evidence in the old case. When he walked into the Lu Group conference room, all the directors' eyes fell on him. This time, no one treated him as an accessory to Lu Chenzhou. He was the new leader of Shin Group and the only person capable of unlocking Lanzhou's evidence in the old case. Lu Chenzhou sat at the head of the table. His shoulder had not healed and his face was still pale, but his presence remained composed and commanding. Their eyes briefly collided. Shen Yu'an took a seat on his right. Not behind him. Beside him. Lu Wenchuan sat at the other end of the long table. He still looked calm, even smiling slightly. Everyone is here, Lu Wenchuan said. Then let's begin. Lu Chenzhou ignored his gesture and directly announced the start of the meeting. The first evidence presented was the complete recording and surveillance footage from the underground passage. In the screen, Lu Wenchuan personally admitted to threatening Lu Chenzhou with the board of directors, and appeared at the scene when Gu Yanci was taken away and suspected of being silenced. Lu Wenchuan's lawyer immediately objected. The recording only proves that Mr. Lu was present. It does not prove that he orchestrated the crime. Shen Yu'an remained unhurried. The second piece of evidence is the Gu Yanci testimony and the contents of the voice recorder. Gu Yanci admitted in his testimony that on the night of the car accident in his previous life, in a realistic way, he admitted that during the Shin Group crisis, Lu Wenchuan had instructed the Gu family to give up the rescue and protection of Shen Yu'an, and asked the Gu family to cooperate in the transfer of Shin Group's assets after the car accident-related incidents. The lawyers continued trying to undermine Gu Yanci's credibility. The third piece of evidence is Su Ming's testimony in the Lu Group security company's dispatch records. This time, some people in the conference room began to change their expressions. This was no longer Gu Yanci's testimony alone. It revealed the operational end of Lu Wenchuan's chain of command. Lu Wenchuan remained calm. Those subordinates merely misunderstood their instructions. Chenzhou, you should know that no one managing a group this large can personally decide every operational detail. Lu Chenzhou looked at him. Then let us look at the fourth piece of evidence. The display changed. The recordings of the Old City project from 20 years ago, the flow of funds, and the overseas trust documents and Lanzhou's materials were displayed one by one. The smile on Lu Wenchuan's face finally faded. These were not misunderstandings by subordinates. These were the roots of his entire operation. The directors began to talk in hushed tones. Several old directors who originally supported Lu Wenchuan looked ugly, because once this information was submitted, the old investment in Lu Group would also be traced. But if they refused to submit it, they would be continuing to cover for Lu Wenchuan. Lu Wenchuan looked toward Shen Yu'an. Mr. Shen, do you really want to release this evidence? Your father is implicated as well. Shen Yu'an looked calm. I've let it go. Shen Group will be injured. The wound already exists. Covering it does not mean it has healed. Lu Wenchuan narrowed his eyes. Shen Yu'an continued, you always believed people would choose silence because they feared loss. You used that belief to coerce my father, the Gu family, the directors of Lu Group, and Lu Chenzhou. His voice was steady. But this time, I won't be silent. There was silence in the conference room. Lu Chenzhou looked at Shen Yu'an, his eyes were as deep as the tide. At this moment, Shen Yu'an is more dazzling than ever. Not because of who he was protecting, but because he finally stood in front of all the truth with his own hands. Lu Wenchuan suddenly smiled. All right. Then let me tell you the truth. He stood up and looked at all the directors. Do you think Lu Chenzhou is innocent? He has suspected me ever since his mother died. During his years in power at Lu Group, how many people has he removed? He did it not for the company, but for personal revenge. And now he stands beside Shen Yu'an not for justice, but because he loves him. Those words were Lu Wenchuan's final test. He wanted to recast every one of Lu Chenzhou's actions as the product of private feelings and personal grudges. In the conference room, someone looked at Lu Chenzhou. Lu Chenzhou did not deny it. Yes, I love Shen Yu'an. The whole place was quiet. Shen Yu'an's heart suddenly skipped a beat. Lu Chenzhou looked at everyone, his voice steady. I hate Lu Wenchuan too. But every piece of evidence I submitted today is supported by original documents, third-party authentication, and a judicial chain of custody. My feelings do not invalidate that evidence, and my personal grievances do not absolve Lu Wenchuan. He looked at Lu Wenchuan. Second uncle, you still think that just by pointing out other people's motives, you can erase your own sins? Lu Wenchuan's face completely darkened. Shen Yu'an suddenly spoke. I'll also add something. Everyone looked at him. Shen Yu'an has clear sound. Lu Chenzhou and I have signed a divorce agreement. This sentence shocked the entire board of directors. Even Lu Wenchuan was stunned. Shen Yu'an continued, so today I stand here neither as Lu Chenzhou's partner nor as someone bound to him by marital interests. I represent Shen Group. I represent Lanzhou's evidence. I represent my previous life, and every person silenced by the death you designed. He looked at Lu Wenchuan and spoke word by word. I'm not blindly taking sides for love. I choose a side for the truth. In the conference room, no one spoke anymore. The voting begins. For the first time, Lu Wenchuan truly lost the ability to control the situation. Because all his provocations were ineffective at this moment. Shen Yu'an and Lu Chenzhou are no longer tied together by marriage. They still choose to be on the same side. This is the most unbreakable thing about Lu Wenchuan. Before the vote, Lu Wenchuan made one last struggle. He asked the board of directors to suspend, claiming that Lanzhou's information involves the interests of Shen Group. As a representative of Shen Group, Shen Yu'an has an obvious position deviation and should not lead the submission of evidence. This is a procedural attack. If the board of directors accepts, some key information may be excluded from the on-the-spot vote, allowing Lu Wenchuan to buy time to deal with external judicial risks. Several old directors began to waver. They don't necessarily want to protect Lu Wenchuan, but they are afraid that Lu Group will be dragged into the old case. Shen Yu'an did not wait for Lu Chenzhou to open. He stood up and threw a document onto the screen. This is the authorization letter from the Shen Group Board of Directors. Everyone looked at the screen. The Board of Directors of Shen Group has officially authorized Shen Yu'an to represent Shen Group in evidence submission, legal consultation, and liability negotiation in incidents involving the Old City Project, Lanzhou information, and common risk events between Shen Group and Lu Group. Below the document are signatures of a majority of the Shen Group Board of Directors. Shen Qingtang is also among them. Shen Yu'an continued, "This is the second personal statement of Mr. Shen Chongshan." Screen switching. The statement for Shen Chongshan is short. He admitted that he had participated in the early stages of the Old City Project when he was young, and also admitted that he had experienced increased risks due to fluke and concessions. He is willing to accept the investigation and does not ask Shen Group to cover up for him, nor does he want Shen Yu'an to stop the pursuit in order to save him. The last sentence is, "Yu'an, do what you think is right. Father will no longer decide for you this time." Shen Yu'an's eyes heated up slightly when he saw this sentence. But he didn't stop. The third one is my personal statement. Everyone in the conference room fell silent. Shen Yu'an looks towards Lu Wenchuan. "I admit that I have a position. I am a member of the Shen family, the target of the car accident, the key to Lanzhou, and the person you are trying to erase. But because of this, I am more qualified than anyone else to stand here." His voice was not loud, but his words were clear. What the Lu Group Board of Directors discussed today is not just Lu Group's internal governance issues, but whether Lu Group will continue to tolerate a person in power who uses company resources to plan commercial crimes, fabricate evidence, silence witnesses, and manipulate old cases. If you think that my identity invalidates the evidence, you can raise objections to the judicial authorities after the meeting. But in this conference room, I will not accept anyone using procedural issues to cover up criminal facts. There was dead silence in the conference room. Lu Chenzhou sat in the main seat and did not interrupt. This was Shen Yu'an's battlefield. He won't stand in front of him anymore. He would just sit by and watch Shen Yu'an land each knife with precision. Lu Wenchuan looked at Shen Yu'an, with obvious hatred in his eyes for the first time. "Your mother was like this back then." Shen Yu'an's fingertips tightened slightly. Lu Wenchuan said slowly, "I thought I could change the outcome if I held the truth. But what happened in the end? She died, your father was trapped in guilt for half his life, and the Shen family was almost destroyed. Shen Yu'an, do you think you are luckier than her?" Lu Chenzhou's face turned cold. Shen Yu'an raised his hand, indicating that he did not need to speak. He looked at Lu Wenchuan. "Of course I'm luckier than her." Lu Wenchuan squinted. "Shen Yu'an has a very stable sound. Because she was hiding information by herself and dragging her sick body to fight against you. And I am not alone." He looked at Lu Chenzhou. That glance was short. But it was enough to shock Lu Chenzhou's heart. Shen Yu'an looked at everyone in the conference room again. "She didn't keep Lanzhou here so that I could repeat her lone struggle, but so that I could drag you into the light when I have the ability, evidence, and allies." Lu Wenchuan looked gloomy. The directors resumed their discussions in hushed tones. This time, the wind direction has clearly changed. A neutral director was the first to speak. "I think Mr. Shen has the right to submit information. Procedural issues can be corrected after the meeting, but the current evidence is enough to enter the vote." Another director nodded. "Agreed." Program attack on Lu Wenchuan failed. Voting officially begins. The first item is to remove Lu Wenchuan from all positions and authorities in Lu Group. The positive votes light up one by one. More than half. 2/3 more. Finally, passed. The second item is to transfer old cases and related materials to the judiciary and supervision. Pass. The third item confirms that Lu Chenzhou will continue to serve as the executive chairman of Lu Group and be responsible for crisis cleanup. There was a brief pause for a few seconds during the voting process. Shen Yu'an sat next to him, his fingers slightly tight. Lu Chenzhou saw it, but made no sound. The last vote lights up. Pass. Lu Wenchuan was officially kicked out of the Lu Group Power Core. The conference room was so quiet it was almost unreal. Lu Wenchuan sat where he was, with no more smile on his face. He looked at Lu Chenzhou and then at Shen Yu'an. You think this is the end? Shen Yu'an stood up. No. He looked at Lu Wenchuan, his voice calm. Next, comes the judicial part. The conference room door opens. Police and supervisors walked in. Lu Wenchuan finally changed his expression. The trap he had laid for many years was finally torn apart by Shen Yu'an himself on this day. When Lu Wenchuan was taken away, he still did not lose his composure. He just adjusted his sleeves, as if preparing to go to an ordinary meeting. When he reached the door, he stopped and looked back at Shen Yu'an. You look a lot like your mother. Shen Yu'an did not answer. Lu Wenchuan looked at Lu Chenzhou again. You are just like your mother, always protecting those who shouldn't be protected too deeply. Lu Chenzhou has cold eyes. At least after my mother died, there were still people who remembered who killed her. This sentence finally made Lu Wenchuan's expression change for a moment. He was removed from the conference room. The moment the door closed, the entire Lu group board seemed to have finally woken up from a long nightmare. But Shen Yu'an isn't letting up. Because people like Lu Wenchuan will not leave only one battlefield. Sure enough, half an hour later, Zhou Jibai received the message. Before Lu Wenchuan was taken away, the self-destruction process of the Overseas Trust had been initiated. Some fund information is being transferred. If it cannot be frozen within 4 hours, the key fund chain may be broken. At the same time, someone in Qixing capital tried to leave the country, a core financial officer in the Gu family lost contact, and the Yuan technology database was also remotely attacked. Even if Lu Wenchuan was taken away, he intended to drag all the evidence down with him. Lu Chenzhou immediately takes over crisis command of Lu Group. Shen Yu'an did not leave. He sat down directly in the Lu Group conference room and turned on the computer. Shen Group can provide Qixing capital debt transfer information here, and the corresponding overseas accounts may overlap. Lu Chenzhou glanced at him. You just finished the board meeting. You just got stitches. The two looked at each other for a second, and neither of them tried to persuade them. Zhou Jibai and Lin Jiyue were quickly added. The next 4 hours were the most intense capital counterattack in the book. Lu Group is responsible for freezing overseas trusts, Shen Group is responsible for submitting Qixing's capital flow, Lin Jiyue contacts the supervision in court to initiate temporary preservation, and Han Yuan's technical team reversely locks the source of the database attack in offline backup. Shen Yu'an sat on the side of the conference table and made more than a dozen calls in succession. Shen Group agrees to cooperate in submitting all logistics project debt transactions. No, we can't wait until tomorrow. The temporary preservation application will be sent now. The money from Qixing is not an ordinary investment, it is a secondary transfer of income from the Old City project. I will send you the information. His voice gradually became hoarse but did not stop. Lu Chenzhou sat on the other side of the table. After hours of work, blood had begun seeping from his injured shoulder. Shen Yu'an noticed and tossed him a packet of gauze. Press. Lu Chenzhou looked at him and did as he was told. Zhou Jibai almost thought his eyes had deceived him. The only person in the world who can make Lu Chenzhou press the wound obediently at this time is Shen Yu'an. At 5 p.m., the first offshore trust funds were frozen. At 5:40 p.m., Qixing Capital's missing finance officer was stopped at the airport. At 6:10 p.m., the source of the Yuan database attack was reverse traced to the Lu Wenchuan overseas server. At 7 p.m., the core information of the capital chain of the old case was judicially solidified. Lu Wenchuan's final escape route had been completely severed. Everyone in the conference room breathed a sigh of relief. Shen Yu'an leaned back in the chair, his face extremely pale. Lu Chenzhou looked at him immediately. Uncomfortable? Shen Yu'an waved his hand. Hypoglycemia. Lu Chenzhou immediately ordered someone to bring sugar water. Shen Yu'an looked at his nervous look and wanted to say no, but suddenly felt it was unnecessary. Some care does not need to be rejected every time. After the sugar water was delivered, Lu Chenzhou handed it to him personally. Shen Yu'an took it and took a few sips. Don't look at me like that. What kind? It looks like I will break into pieces in the next second. Lu Chenzhou was silent for a second. I'll try my best to change it. Shen Yu'an looked at him and suddenly chuckled. Now you know that you will try your best? Lu Chenzhou also had a little smile in his eyes. After the counterattack ended, Lu Group and Shen Group released announcements at the same time. Lu Group announced that Wenchuan has been relieved of all duties and relevant information has been handed over to the judiciary. Shen Group announced that it will cooperate with the investigation of the old case and will pursue prosecution against the relevant responsible parties of Qixing Capital and the Gu family. Market shocks are inevitable. But unlike before, this time the initiative is in their hands. Late at night, Shen Yu'an walked out of the Lu Group building. It's not raining outside. Lu Chenzhou stood beside him. Both of them were very tired, but they didn't get in the car immediately. Shen Yu'an looked up at the lights at the top of the Lu Group building. Is it over? Lu Chenzhou said, Lu Wenchuan, it's basically over. What about us? After these words were spoken, both of them fell silent. Shen Yu'an did not know why he had asked. Perhaps the night had been too long. Or perhaps, after their successful counterattack, the weight pressing on his heart for so long had finally begun to lift. Lu Chenzhou looked at him and did not take the opportunity to approach. You have the final say. Shen Yu'an smiled. I have the final say in everything now? Yeah. Mr. Lu is so unprincipled? Yes. What? Lu Chenzhou whispered, no more leaving you without a choice. Shen Yuan's heart trembled slightly. He didn't answer. Standing in the night wind, he suddenly felt that the city was no longer as cold as it had been in his previous life. After Lu Wenchuan was officially investigated, all the truth began to emerge layer by layer. In the old city project 20 years ago, he transferred compensation funds through the Liang family and the Gu family, established an offshore trust, and used this to support Qixing Capital. Shen Yu'an participated in the early stages of the project when he was young. Later, he noticed problems and tried to withdraw. However, Lu Wenchuan used his signature to record long-term threats. After Shen Yu'an discovered the truth, he established the Lanzhou project and left complete information. While she was seriously ill, she still tried to push Shen Yu'an to hand over evidence, but Shen Yu'an repeatedly hesitated for fear of implicating the Shen family and Shen Yu'an. This hesitation gave Lu Wenchuan time, and also allowed the Shen family to suffer backlash many years later. Shen Yu'an was attracted by Lu Wenchuan due to greed and became Shen Group's internal breakthrough. The Gu family had been responsible for gaining emotional access and transferring funds, while Gu Yanci became the pawn closest to Shen Yu'an. Qixing Capital is responsible for short selling and receiving assets at low prices. The car accident in the previous life was a cleanup operation arranged by Lu Wenchuan after discovering that Shen Yu'an might be Lanzhou's key. Gu Yanci has been to the scene, but chose to leave. Lu Chenzhou received the warning and tried to rescue people, but was led to the wrong place by the design of Lu Wenchuan, 17 minutes late. After he arrived, he received a call from Shen Yu'an. During those 32 seconds, Shen Yu'an asked him to save Shen Yu'an first, and he didn't need the information. But it was too late. In this life, all nodes are rewritten one by Shen Yu'an after rebirth and Lu Chenzhou who dreamed of fragments. The police, regulators, and the Lu and Shen families compiled the complete truth into a formal case report. On the day it was released, Shen Yu'an sat in Shen Group's office and read it from beginning to end. He did not cry. He only felt tired. It was like carrying a box for 2 lifetimes after walking for a long time and finally putting it down. Lin Gus sat next to him and asked in a low voice, "Are you okay?" Shen Yu'an nodded. Better than expected. Shen Xingtang stood by the window, but his eyes were red. When she saw that part of Shen Yuan's confession, she finally shed tears. Not aggrieved for Shen Yuan. It's just that no matter how cold-hearted a person is, it's hard not to feel anything when he truly sees how his father uses his family, relatives, and even his daughter as a bargaining chip step by step. Shen Yu'an did not comfort her. He just handed over a tissue. Shen Xingtang took it and said hoarsely, "Thank you." Shen Yu'an said, "No need, The family relationship between the two could not be considered restored, but at least hostility was no longer the only thing left. That afternoon, Shen Yuan went to his mother's grave. The cemetery was quiet. He brought a bouquet of white phalaenopsis. Shen Yuan smiled softly on the tombstone, as if she had never experienced those heavy past events. Shen Yuan crouched down and carefully arranged the flowers. "Mom, Lanzhou is open." The wind blew gently. He whispered, "What you left behind saved me and the Shen family. Although it hurts when it is opened, you are right, the truth will hurt people, and lies will make people die without knowing the reason." He paused for a long time. "I used to think that I was very unlucky. Later I found out that you actually left a way for me long ago." Shen Yuan's eyes reddened slightly. "I'm out." There were very light footsteps behind him. He knew who it was without looking back. Lu Chenzhou stopped a few steps behind him, not getting too close. Shen Yuan looked back at him. "How did you know I was here?" "Guess." "Follow me?" "No." Shen Yuan looked at him for a few seconds. Lu Chenzhou added, "Ask Lin Jiyue." Shen Yuan. He began to wonder whose lawyer Lin Jiyue was. Lu Chenzhou is also holding a bouquet of flowers. "Can I come over?" Shen Yuan was silent for a second and nodded. Lu Chenzhou walked to the tomb and put down the flowers. He faced Shen Yuan's tombstone and whispered, "Miss Shen, I'm sorry, I failed to save Yuan in my previous life." Shen Yuan's heart moved slightly. Lu Chenzhou continued, "He came out on his own in this life. I just stood by." Shen Yuan lowered his eyes. This sentence made the tip of his nose sore. The two stood in front of the tomb for a long time. When leaving, Shen Yuan suddenly asked, "Where is your mother buried?" Lu Chenzhou was startled. "Cemetery in the north of the city." "Take me there another day." Lu Chenzhou stopped. Shen Yuan didn't look at him, as if he was just talking casually. She was also harmed by Lu Wenchuan. Now that the truth has come out, it's time to tell her. Lu Chenzhou's eyes turned red for a moment. "Okay." Shen Yuan walked in front, his voice was very soft. "Lu Chenzhou, we don't owe anything to our previous lives." Lu Chenzhou looked at his back. After a long time, he whispered, "Yeah." The rain in the previous life finally stopped. Gu Yanci's interrogation lasted a long time. He is not the mastermind, but he is deeply involved in the Gu family's approach to Shen Yuan, transfer of Shen Group's funds, and cooperation with Lu Wenchuan in concealing evidence. Because Gu Yanci proactively submitted key evidence and cooperated with the investigation at a later stage, Gu Yanci was given a certain leniency, but it is still inevitable that he will bear legal responsibility. Before the official trial, he asked to meet Shen Yuan. Lin Jiyue asked Shen Yuan if he wanted to refuse. Shen Yuan thought about it for a long time. In the end, he went. In the interview room, Gu Yanci was wearing a simple white shirt, and he had lost a lot of weight. Without the haute couture suit and the carefully groomed gentle appearance, he finally looked like an ordinary loser. Shen Yuan sat down. "You only have 10 minutes. Gu Yanci smiled. "You really have no patience with me now. You should be lucky that I'm still willing to come." "Yes." Gu Yanci lowered his head and was silent for a few seconds. The sentence shouldn't be too light. Shen Yuan said nothing. "The Gu family is finished too," Gu Yanci said very softly. "My grandfather fell ill, and my uncles are blaming one another. I used to think the Gu family was my support. Now I know it was only another place that devoured people." Shen Yuan said calmly, "This is not the reason for you to harm others." "I know." Gu Yanci looked at him, his eyes clearer than before. It was not that he had become kind. He had simply stopped pretending. "I used to wonder if you would hate me forever if you knew the truth one day. Later I found out that what is more terrifying than being hated by you is that you really let me go." Shen Yuan looked at him calmly. "I did let it go." Gu Yanci smiled, but his eyes were red. "Yeah, I can see that." He took a ring from his pocket. It was the one he took out that day at the old church. He put the ring on the table and pushed it in front of Shen Yu'an. I shouldn't keep this. Shen Yu'an did not answer. You handle it yourself. Gu Yanci's fingers froze slightly, then nodded. Same. He put the ring back into his palm. Shen Yu'an, only now do I realize that what I wanted most was not your happiness, but that you couldn't live without me. So I'm not worthy of blessing you. Shen Yu'an looked at him. Then don't say it. Gu Yanci was startled for a moment, then laughed out loud. This time the smile was much more real. You're getting really tough. I was taught by you. That will at least be of some use. The meeting time is almost over. Gu Yanci looked at Shen Yu'an and asked in a low voice, will you be with Lu Chenzhou? Shen Yu'an did not answer immediately. In the past, Gu Yanci would have felt offended if he asked this kind of question. Now it's just calm. That's my business. Gu Yanci nodded. Same. He paused. If we are really together, don't keep doubting him because of my past. I know I'm not qualified to say this, but I still want to say it. Shen Yu'an stood up. You are indeed not qualified. Gu Yanci smiled bitterly. Shen Yu'an suddenly stopped when he reached the door. But I heard you. Gu Yanci looked up suddenly. Shen Yu'an did not look back. Gu Yanci, bear your share. This is the last thing you can do right. After saying that, he walked out of the meeting room. After the door closed, Gu Yanci sat there, holding the ring in his hand, and did not move for a long time. A few days later, Gu Yanci was formally put on trial. When the media reported his ending, they used many words: the heir to a wealthy family fell, the love affair collapsed, and the business pawn backfired. Shen Yu'an did not open the article. He only paused for a second when the newsfeed popped up, and then deleted it. At that moment, he knew the name Gu Yanci and finally truly exited his life. It was not the dramatic end of a grand revenge. It was simply a clean full stop. In the evening, Lu Chenzhou came to Shen Group to deliver a document. Shen Yu'an saw him and suddenly asked, do you know Gu Yanci's sentence? I know. You have nothing to say? Lu Chenzhou was silent for a second. He got what he deserved. Shen Yu'an nodded. Yeah. Lu Chenzhou looked at him. Are you sad? Shen Yu'an thought about it. Not sad. He paused. I just feel that the person who has been waiting for him in his previous life can finally rest. A faint ache surfaced in Lu Chenzhou's eyes. Shen Yu'an looked up at him. Lu Chenzhou. Yeah. Don't mention him again. Lu Chenzhou whispered, okay. Gu Yanci's story ended there. And Shen Yu'an's life no longer needed him to exist as a shadow.